पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर। चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग।
Let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर। चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। उत्साह के रंग बन के दबंग ये मन के संग। ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन। आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन।
Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन। आर्थिक आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन। मन में मन जीतेंगे जंग ले मन के संग। और सपने नए हौसले है बुलंद। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग। लाखों अरमान है और सपने नए हौसले है बुलंद।
चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग।
चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग।
Let's explore, let's experiment.
पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर उत्साह के रंग बन के दबंग ये मन के संग ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन आर्थिक आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन मन में मन जीतेंगे जंग ले मन के संग और सपने हौसले है बुलंद चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग लाखों अरमान है और सपने नए हौसले है बुलंद नहीं कुछ मुश्किल कर वही हासिल जो लक्ष्य हमने मन में ठाना है सोच बड़ी उस यही को छूना खुद को ही अब तो हमने पहचाना है पर्पस लाइफ का जाना कर्तव्य एक निभाना मन में उमंग जीतेंगे जंग ये मन के संग पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग
Let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर उत्साह के रंग बन के दबंग ये मन के संग देश के प्रगति का है विजन आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन
Let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन आर्थिक आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन मन में मन जीतेंगे जंग ले मन के संग लाखों अरमान है और सपने नए हौसले हैं बुलंद नहीं कुछ मुश्किल तेरी वही हासिल जो लक्ष्य हमने मन में ठाना है सोच बड़ी उस यही कुछ होना खुद को ही
Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, can you just confirm whether my audio and video is clear?
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Thank you, Krishnakant. So, welcome everyone to this investor empathy and funding readiness discussion, panel discussion, which we are organizing for you today. So, what I'll request the participants, as usual, request you to rename yourself with a startup name and your name. We'll request you to unmute yourself whenever you want to ask a question to the panel members. We will keep this panel discussion more live with interacting with you. But still, if somebody prefers to use the chat box, you are requested to do so. And any queries, any questions which are asked, in general, so you can put it in the chat box. So I am Saurabh, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Lemon School of Entrepreneurship. We have interacted with you earlier, and we have this panel which will be moderated by Krishnakant today. We have the panel members who are the panel members, Shashank, Randev. He's the founder of VC at 100x VC. We are waiting for Minal Shah to join. I think there are some issues at her hand, and she may join us at a later stage. We have the Deepak Minaria, who is the founder and CEO at Lemon Ideas. And we have two speakers with us who have been, we have two Narayanas with us. One is the co-founder of Unschool and another is founder of EF Polymers. So we listen to the stories on the investment front. So just to give a recap to our guests and the panel members who are there today with us. So Samvriddhi is a acceleration program which we are doing with uh, Startup Odisha and AIC Nalanda as a knowledge partner. And the word about Lemon. So the Lemon Ideas is functioning as an ecosystem, and we do incubation, acceleration, and mentoring programs and a consultancy under the flagship name as Lemon Ideas. We have our brand as Lemon School of Entrepreneurship, which is a new age entrepreneurship guru school where we do training and mentoring interventions for people like the startups which are right now in this cohort of acceleration program, and also for the early stage startups and people who are still in colleges and ideating. And we also have our contest platform, which is Innopreneurs, which we run every year. So the right now also the pre-registrations are open. People can go and register themselves to participate in this competition platform. That is, which also runs startup idea contest and also builds up community. And we have a lemon seed fund where we utilize our investor network and to do funding and compliances and due diligence for our startups. We have had an impact of till now since 2013 we have been there, and we uh, have supported around 500 plus ventures, 100 plus 50 partners we have across India and South Asia. We have mentored 150 plus startups. We have supported 3,000 plus entrepreneurs. We have recognized 400 plus entrepreneurs in our yearly program, which is the National Entrepreneurship Day, which we celebrate every year on the 16th of Jan. Then we have five presence in the 5 countries across say South Asia, and we have supported 300 plus entrepreneurs under the Lemon Guru School scheme. We have conducted more than 300 plus events. We have done 5,000 plus startup pitches on our platform and in the contest and other platforms which we keep running on time to time. The prominent guests at Lemon have been from the ministries to the industries, and we have had foreign ambassadors being on our platform, and also the entrepreneurs who have done well and been supporting us. And we had few prominent guests during our 6th edition of Entrepreneurs Round, wherein Sri Deepak Baglaji had come, who is the MD and CEO at Invest India. We had Mr. Deepak Chandran, CFO, Wipro Consumer Care. We had Mr. Ram Bahadur Gurung, who is a Deputy Chief Entrepreneur and in Entrepreneurship Department in Royal Government of Bhutan. So we had a lot of people who had supported us in various uh, rounds and regional rounds during our Independence contest. You can follow us on our social media handles. We are there almost on every platform. So a word about Samvriddhi, so for the panel members to understand. So this is a program where we started our program since, so the applications were received by 25th of April. 74 teams applied, out of which 30 got selected. And we have done a lot of programs and sessions on idea validation, collaboration activity, problem solving model, business modeling, financial management, IPR, legal, and pitch deck presentation. And now today we are doing the investment opportunity. We are talking about something on investments. So this is the cohort which is there with us. There are 30 members in the cohort, 30 startups, and they are in various stages. You can see stage of operations. 7 of them are prototype stage, 3 of them are in POC, 3 in MVP. We have 7 in early traction, and growth stage we have 6. Their presence in sectors, so they are present in almost every sector, 13 sectors which we are there: fintech, agri, clean energy, e-commerce, education, healthcare, hospitality, IT, IoT, manufacturing, services, social impact, supply chain, and most of them are registered as a private limited company or so, LLP. So 95% are registered. Only 3% is on proprietary and partnership, uh, which we see is at 3%. Rest hardly 7% are not registered yet. So once they go through this program, they'll be doing so. So I just tell you about this, the flow of program. So Krishnakant will take on from here. He'll set the context, and then we'll talk about fundraising journey, sharing with speakers, and then we have panel discussion, which will be moderated by Krishnakant, and followed by Q&A, which we'll like to answer. So a lot of questions on investments. So we'll like the participants to ask us a lot of questions so that we can give them inputs on various aspects of investments and other things. So with this, I request everyone to just, I'll stop sharing my slide. Let us take a good photograph. So I request everyone to switch on their videos and let us have a quick snap. Well, so Lakshmi, she's there. May I request you to take a quick snap and so that
Yes. Yeah, I will do that.
yeah. Thank you everyone for switching on the cameras. May I request any people who are not yet switched to do so that we move to the next thing very fast.
Yeah, I have taken the picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. And with this, Krishnakant, I hand over to you. We'll request you to take it ahead. So I'll just introduce Krishnakant to people who have not yet met him. So Krishnakant is our CEO at Innopreneurs. So he runs the vertical. So the complete Innopreneurs, everything is being looked after by him. And this, with this, I hand over this stage to Krishnakant to take it ahead.
Thank you so much, sir. Just confirm me if I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
All right. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you so much for setting the context for this panel discussion. This is going to be one of the fruitful panel discussion, I could say, because the people that we have today with us are phenomenal. They have, very great profiles. So let me move ahead without wasting any time because we have only 1.5 hours with us. So we have the founder of Unschool .in, who has been into the LinkedIn top startups list in 2020. If you've been following the LinkedIn top startups list, you would have found Unschool at third number there. Unschool has also been to Y Combinator recent cohort. So we have Narayana S, who is the co-founder at Unschool.in. He has started his journey by working in various, companies like Clap Global as the B2B, like as the head of B2B partnerships and marketing, then working for Nearby.com. He had also volunteered for Isaac and, for around 6 years and had got a chance to lead lead a country, Nepal for the partnerships and all. And in 2019, I think he co-founded Unschool.com, which is an e-mentorship platform for students across India. So may I now request Narayana to quickly give you certain sort of orientation about what he has been doing and how has been his, journey of making his startup funding ready. So Narayana, over to you now.
Thank
Welcome
you
to
so
the panel.
much, Krishnakant. I'm in my, work from home attire.
Not a
Really
problem.
glad to be back here. I think we were also part of Innopreneurs in 2019. So it's a really nice gesture that I got a call and I'm here today. Just to give firstly, it's Narayanan. My name is Narayanan. It's misspelled on the slide. What we are trying to do here is to provide professional education to Indian students that other online portals or institutions sort of don't provide. It started off as a problem that me and my co-founder Rahul were trying to solve for friends around. And while we were in ISEC and traveled across the country and the world, we realized that the problem does not just lie in the societies that we were present in, the tier 1 cities, but it was way deeper into the circuit there. And we went our ways. He took up a job in an edtech firm. I was working in Clap Global, which was a edu travel entity. We were not really happy with what we were doing there. Is when we thought, okay, let's just put our minds together and start this. It was a good 5.5, 6 months of market research before we launched the product out there. The focus was to keep the company very much bootstrapped until we hit a 500,000 or 1 million customers. And I could say that we are on the track right now. But there always comes this one question for any entrepreneur to sort of raise external funds to grow massively in the market. Even though today we are a YC company or or the LinkedIn top 3 startups for 2020. The idea is to impact more students and learners across the country via the different pedagogy that we provide, via the instructors that we get on, or the entire business model in itself. We've been able to do that. We have over 60,000 customers right now, with over 40% of them finishing the course, which sort of comes back to the big question of the product actually solving the problem of the learners. The other MOOCs out there give out 3 to 5%. So the idea of fundraising was not to sustain or be surviving in the industry. It was more so to be out there, be known in the market, and get the right kind of hires, which usually costs extra bucks. So the current state of Unschool is that we have over 60,000 customers. We are a profitable business, completely bootstrapped, and we're in the motion of raising our first fund, the seed fund, $1.5 million US, and we've done 30 to 35% of that round. We're waiting to close in on multiple, US and UK based VCs right now. I was having a conversation with Lakshmi, who invited me to this space. And the first thing I would like to tell all of you, might be unpopular opinion, but I would suggest that fundraising should be the second thing that you do when you're starting a business or starting your entrepreneurship journey. A lot of co-founders that I've worked with or seen, they feel that capital is one thing that helps you become a big company. It definitely is a catalyst to help you grow the business, to massively scale it up. But the primary aspect of you starting up is to make sure that the product really shines out. The product does all the talking, and it's virally going out there alongside your consumers and customers. If you have that mindset, I feel that growing your business along with fundraising becomes a really nice joyride. We started our fundraising journey only about 9 months back, and I feel the entire lockdown situation has sort of given us a heads up that it's usually a long journey when you chase venture capitalists or HNIs or anyone else for that matter for their money. It's usually a 6 to 9 months journey individually, but during the pandemic, I think it's been expedited. One, because the edtech pool of funding has also sort of increased in the past 12 months. And secondly, that people are at home, so travel times and other commitments are not there. And we have started with the closed circuits to raise funds, and later realized that more than the money that a VC sort of gives you, or any gives you that money, you should partner with them for the kind of value addition they bring, right? If you are in manufacturing sector and you're raising funds, make sure that you're getting an investor that has, if not in-depth knowledge, but is at least passionate towards manufacturing sector, right? Otherwise, you're just taking their money and they don't really come in, as a partner in the company, right? They just are a financial investor. If you feel that is okay for you, you can definitely go ahead with that. My opinion and suggestion would be get someone who gives you even a little amount of money, but gets you a lot of intellectual property, right? Someone who can guide you through the course of making the product and the company better. In that order is where we also have declined a lot of offers from VCs. And it's okay for you to be in a position where you're scared that if at all someone investor will come and invest in you, right? End of the day, you started the business taking that risk. You might as well take the risk of saying no to an investor who doesn't fit your bill, right? And this is something that I've learned from my YC journey, where they said it's okay for you to say no, or even an investor for you, to tell you that no, I don't believe in the idea. More often than not, it's okay for you to not take an investment if they don't fit your bill. The second thing is you need to be able to analyze what journey you are in terms of your business growth, right? If you take money sometimes early, it can disrupt the way you are building your company. I have seen about 3 or 4 of my friends' companies where they took in a lot of money just because they wanted to, be in that basket of invested companies, and later they realized that they never needed that much money, right? If you, as a co-founder, is going out for an investment today, write down how much money do you need to be able to grow your business, right? If it's $300,000, for example, put a breakdown of where this 300,000 goes into, right? Does it go into HR? Does it go into, inventory? If you're a manufacturing sector, does it go into technology or hiring, right? If you, or marketing or branding, if you have the split, and then the timeline, are you spending this 300K in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months or 24 months, right? Have a runway for this expenditure as well. Seeking money without knowing where you spend the money is the most disastrous thing that you can do, right? That's number one. Number two, I have personally seen investors looking at businesses that are making profits as companies that will not scale up sometimes, right? I've seen investments only going into companies that are, either breaking even or making loss. So they feel, okay, if I flush in money, they'll be able to put it in the right place and grow the business. Unschool being a profitable business, we've seen a lot of no's saying, hey, this is a very crowded marketplace. A lot of companies in your sector, we don't know if there's a future. They have enough experience to give you that feedback, but end of the day, you are the torchbearer of your company, right? If you believe that with or without the investment, you can grow your company, go ahead, right? That's the second thing. The third thing is make sure that after you've raised your fund, or while you're raising this fund, you also have 2 or 3 years down the line what you're planning to do plans, right? If you don't have a journey mapped out, chances are you will lose track. Yeah. Now, today, when we are raising the money, or we're raising funds, sorry. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. How many minutes do I have, Casey? Because I did not get a heads up on how many minutes I have. 2-3 minutes?
I mean, maybe, yeah. All maybe right. You can sum up in the next 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. So the final thing is making sure that you have a roadmap, right? When you have a roadmap, investors know that your head is in the right place. Yeah. If you're just raising money for the next 6 months or 12 months, it feels like you're being very greedy on short-term goals, right? So always have a roadmap to make sure that you get the investor for a long term and you're also convincing them, right? Just these 3 points for today. I think the conversation is longer, and I also personally feel I could get a lot of experience while I'm in this journey to becoming an entrepreneur. If there is any questions, or if you have time for that, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Narayanan, for sharing your journey of making the startup investment ready. And you shared it indeed well, that the focus should be to grow your company, not funding. And that's how you have listened. It's my kind of an input to all of my audience today, that you have listened to a person who have bootstrapped his entire company to such a level that he is on the verge that he can take this risk of denying the investment offers through VCs. So this was Narayanan from Unschool. I'll quickly give you the introduction of Narayan Lal Gurjar, who is the founder of EF Polymer Private Limited. So Narayan Lal Gurjar is also our Innopenas alumni who came down to us, I think, in 2018, and he has founded this EF Polymer Private Limited, which wherein he works for agriculture, and EF Polymer basically gives inputs to the fields, I think, which reduces the water and fertilizer requirements both. So maybe I'll request Narayana to, quickly unmute himself, and if he can give you more orientation of how he has been doing it, and how he had made his startup investment ready, because he has been to Japan also for some training and then raised some grants from there. So maybe Narayan, over to you now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much to the giving us this opportunity. And so, like this EF Polymer Private Limited, we started in 2018 in India, and then in parallelly we started research on the product. Like what we are doing, we are recycling the bio waste and converting into the organic water retention polymer. So this polymer basically helpful for those farmer who have a low water availability, or the farmer who want to grow their crop in the low water. And also this polymer help to increase the yield and reduce the fertilizer. So this is our product, and through this concept we started work through 2018. And similarly, in 2019 we got an opportunity from the one accelerator program from the Japan, and then we went to the Japan, and there we received like 10 million JPY grant money to enhance our product development, product requirement, everything. And then in 2020 we incorporate our company in Japan also. And last in March we received funding from the investor venture capitalist. So like today, like we want, like what is the journey regarding the funding. So this take from the 6 to 9 months for us for the raising this seed round fund to investor and venture capitalist. So the reason once regarding the investment, like as before the said, uh, investment when we need to take when we require very in a critical situation, like when we have nothing in our hand, that time we will need to go for investment. Otherwise, yeah, if you are going in unexpected time for just for trying for investment, so this is just wasting your time, and your business is until your idea is not clear, your product is not clear, your market and your traction is not. So until that time, if you are going for investment, no one will be interested, and if someone be interested, but this is not a good path. So in meanwhile, we manage through the grant money, some award money, from some our own money, spend this until we are not able to satisfy or confident in our product, in our test, validation, interaction, until we not went for the VC or this. And once we have a traction, the VC and investor come to us. So this is where, like once you have a good product, you have a good traction, investment and investor will be come to you. You not need to maybe many time force too much on the like money, regarding the money. So first here the point what we learn from this, focus on your business, your traction. And also like when investor give, because we receive this money from foreign country. So when you are receiving the investment from the foreign country, they also investor look like mostly initial investment if you are getting on the team, also on team strength, like what kind of your team, what is the background, what is the potential, what is the curiosity of your team, why they were investing still. So you when you are making your startup, you need to build your good team, so investor can also believe and they can invest money on this. And third thing also, like investment money, like before that we are also, when we are in the first time when we went for VC, we prepare the plan. We are like not knowing any business plan, like just we are asking we need like 1.5 million USD, 2 million USD. But just rejecting everyone because we have not clear path what we want, in how much time we want, what we need. But once we are able to find, okay, we not need like 1.5 million, we need only like 0.5 million is enough for run our business, and this is a like realistic, then yeah, this big investor also feel, yeah, this is they are saying right and these are right thing, not asking like unwanted money. So in this way you focus like what you need, where you want to use and how you use. So in this case the investment is easier for you. And also here I like the right time and right investor is very useful. Many investor will be come to you, but which one is good for you, you need to wait for them, because in early time many one will put you money, like, but you need to patience and see which one is good for you, where you go. So this will help to achieve your investment. Yeah, this is I think mostly point in the, I have 3 4 more time. So
Thank you so much, Narayana. So, are you still in Japan or in India?
yeah, I am still in Japan.
All right. So I wish you luck, Narayan, and thank you so much for sharing your feedback and insights for making your startup funding ready. As you mentioned correctly, that many people need fund, but they do not know why do they need that some amount of money, right? So you need a proper preparation for it. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us and with all of our audience today. So with this, I'll move ahead and I'll invite our panel member here. So his name is Sashank Randev. He started his career at NIIT and then he went on to work for companies like News Corp, VC Circle, and he has been the director at Z Nation Lab, which is I think a technology incubator or accelerator. And then he started investing in many companies as an angel investor. And he has a lot of companies in his portfolio like Style Nook and Nourish are few of the startups which I can recall and the prominent ones. So, like in 2019, he founded, 100x VC, and we all know what 100x VC is doing right now. They have a lot of, like I would say, investment case studies in the country right now. So maybe I'll request Sashank sir to share, his insights on funding readiness with regard to investors, and maybe for setting the context for our further discussion. So Sashank sir, over to you now.
Thanks, Krishnakant, for that kind introduction. Just a correction, I started my career actually with a Gujarati polyfilms company, and then joined Zensar Technologies before I landed up in NIIT.
All right.
And so yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far, and thank you for extending the invitation. How much time do I have?
Maybe, sir, it's a monologue of 1 or 2 minutes. Then we'll jump onto the panel discussion, taking the questions from the panel.
Got it. So I'll just quickly give you a sense of what we guys are doing. I mean, we are a SEBI registered fund. We invest in early stage startups, very sector agnostic. We've done 50 investments so far, and as a function of that, we've evaluated roughly 14,000 pitch decks over the last 2 years, shortlisted and spoken with at least 2,100 plus founders, entrepreneurs to kind of eventually decide on investing in 50, and we are hoping that we can invest in additional 20 to 30 companies by end of December 2021. And we've cumulatively raised upwards of 16 odd million, and the funding rounds are continuing as we speak for our portfolio companies, which has they've gone ahead and raised money from the famous funds like Sequoia, Cherate, Startup Exceed, Inflexa VC, Lightspeed, so on and so forth. And we typically invest through an instrument called iSafe. And yeah, I mean, a lot of things which we look at when we are investing, and I'll just give you a sense of what we are looking at when we are looking at companies. And typically the kind of companies we invest into are either at a minimal viable product, or they built out a product with 0 customers, or they've been doing revenue which could be upwards of 1 crore ARR. And I think one of the most important thing which stands out while you're evaluating a company is founders who are working on an idea which is not easy to explain, or they're unable to communicate. And I think that is very, very critical to any business. So whenever you've decided that you're ready for a investor, they need to pitch their product in a way that it represents a business. And if you're only pitching a technology product and not a business, it eventually doesn't kind of gain the interest of investors. And a lot of founders end up doing this mistake out of over enthusiasm or passion for their technology, which is also correct. But they need to understand that a good IP driven product is important only if it's converting into a business at the time when they're seeking inwards investments. We also noticed that a lot of founders end up building or attempting to build everything under the sun, which is not important. Everything can be built, but it's not necessary. And I think a great example at this point would be that today Amazon stands at a cusp of revolutionizing every aspect of the ecosystem across the globe. But when they started, they had very humble beginnings. They were just vertical e-commerce platforms selling books. So hence our advice to founders is focus on one thing, so that you can kind of bring that sharpness and bring that focus into scaling up and becoming a category creator in that particular space. They end up hiring a lot of people, which is not a good sign. So be aware of how much you want to spend. Be frugal. Surprisingly, a lot of founders are not frugal. They need to develop that habit. It's not very difficult because we all hail from middle class family backgrounds, and we are in India. Frugality is inherent in our nature, and we should not get excited by what's happening in the West Coast and Silicon Valley, because there is a huge story building up in India. But there are ways to consume capital, and there is still a different journey which we need to accomplish before we become the likes of the US, so on and so forth. One more point which comes out, when we evaluate businesses is, founders end up building something which nobody wants. And, largely happens because they're excited about an opportunity. They do some anecdotal research, which they feel defines their target market. And they end up building a product which is essentially not solving anybody's problem. So an advice to founders is to really, really think through their customer, their user, their buyer, the client, where they exist, and how far can they exist still in terms of the number of years, and hence defining their target or total addressable opportunity. And I think these are the key highlight points. Also, we've seen that sometimes the founders have built a product and they started selling, and they instead of going after a large set of customers, they end up going after one large contract, one big customer early on, and stop focusing on onboarding newer customers. And that kind of creates financial dependency, which is tricky, which also stunts the growth and the vision of what the founders could have set out to do. So it's okay not to get 1,000 rupee contract from one customer, but it's wise, in my opinion, to get 10 customers who are paying you 5 rupees, because the utility of the product becomes more coherent and established. These are some of the things. I can go on and on, but obviously, I'll leave certain points for the panel discussion as well. The final point which I'd like to make is, we also, something which is a red flag for us is when founders are looking to generate income out of the funding they're trying to raise and not wealth. And we've seen founders ask for an X amount of salary per month. What they fundamentally forget is that they're raising money to build a product, to go after a particular market, to build a GTM. They anyways hold equity, right? So as a function of raising money, they've inherently increased the value of that equity. So the focus of founders should be wealth creation and not generating monthly salaries, which anyways can be done at large corporates. They don't need to necessarily start a business. So with that, I think I'll end over here, but I'm looking forward to the panel discussion. And once again, thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Shashank, for giving this another orientation to fundraising. And we look forward to hearing more from you on few of the questions that we have and few of the questions that our audience will have. So thank you so much for setting the context. We are expected to have Meenal Shah with us from IP Ventures. She's the Assistant Vice President of Investments and Inflection Point Ventures. one of our partner at Innopreneurs, and they recently closed a deal with one of our Innopreneur startup this year called Orai. But somehow she had a COVID emergency at her family, so she could not join us. Let us pray for her. And like Meenal, if you are seeing this video for on YouTube, I just wanted to say that we missed you and we wanted to interact with you, and our audience is like also wanted to interact with you. Everybody got excited, but let us hope that whatever emergency you have must be sailed. You must be sailing through it soon. The next panel member that I have with me is Mr. Deepak Manaria, who's the founder and chief idea farmer at Lemon Ideas. So Deepak sir started his journey with an IT company. He co-founded an IT company back, I think, in 1998, which got merged to a US tech global giant called Global Logic. He continued there for around 11 or 12 years, contributing a lot in talent management or people management. And then he took an exit in 2011 and started his own NGO called One Foundation, which basically works for youth, utilizing their potential and giving them a path where they can move further. Then in 2013, he started Lemon Ideas, and I'll now request Deepak sir to quickly set the context for this panel discussion. Over to you, Deepak sir.
Yeah, thanks, Krish. Can you confirm my audio visuals, please?
Yes, it's fine, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Krish. A wonderful afternoon, all of you. Sabhi ko mera namaskar. Hi, hello. I had been interacting with candidates of this accelerator program in the past, and it's been my privilege to having been spend couple of sessions with them. Happy to see you, Shashank. I think 100x and Lemon have been collaborating ever since 2-3 years now, and I'm happy that you are part of this program, and wonderful to see you. And the way 100x is really making a revolution in the investment.
Well, it's the support of the community. So, we're glad to be invited and interacting with these initiatives and identifying these opportunities. So I'm extremely delighted to be here. Thank you, Deepak.
Yes, and we look forward to many more milestones for us to reach together as we move
Absolutely.
ahead.
Absolutely.
So thanks, Shashank. Happy to see Narayan Lal Gurjar. I think I remember 2018 when he came to us, and his innovation was absolutely fascinating. I could still remember that particular scene where he used to take this this powder in a glass of water, and this powder used to absorb a lot of water, and then he used to put this glass upside down and say, see, this is a magic. Oh my God. And I can see, Narayan, you have really put on weight. What I've seen you 3 years back and now I can see you definitely. आपने बहुत बदलाव आया है. आपको देख के बहुत खुशी हुई, and very happy to see that you have progressed well ever since we met 3 years back, and you have been part of our alumni network also. Happy to see you, Narayan. Congratulations. आपको बहुत सी बधाइयाँ, और ज़्यादा बधाइयाँ क्योंकि आप उदयपुर से हो, and that is my connection with you also, and happy to see that you have really grown so far. Thank you, Narayan, for joining.
Thank you, sir. आपका आशीर्वाद है.
Happy to also see Narayanan. I think 2019, yes, I think you have grown beard, but I'm sure because of lockdown situation. And I remember those interactions which we had about Unschool, and I think I'm very happy to see the way Unschool has really progressed. And one of the key drivers at Lemon has been co-creation, and that's the reason why we have been regularly seeking support from our alumni, from partners, from our past candidates at Lemon School, and all that is really growing up well together to make this blended ecosystem grow and grow. So happy to see you, Narayanan, here on this panel discussion. I can definitely see a lot of possibilities because of this reconnection, and I would want to see something more that we could do together in the space of education that we are through Lemon School of Entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much, sir.
So good to see you after many years. So setting the context for this discussion, yes, money is required. Everyone needs money. I think hardly you will find people who will say no to money. Everyone needs money, and but what money, in what form, and when? I think these are the most critical questions. And somehow I'll just add a different dimension to this entire context here, that raising money is just one small part of an entrepreneur's story. I think this is one thing where somehow in India, the success of a entrepreneur is overly linked to ability to raise funds. I think there are more than 1 crore MSMEs in this country who are working, who are also innovating, who are creating jobs, who are creating wealth, and they are equally successful. And somehow over last 3-4 years, they have some we have somehow missed our attention on them. Well, there are only 50,000 startups that we call in India, but there are more than 1 crore MSMEs who form a very integral part of the India's economy and development. So raising money is definitely is one of the things that we need to do, but we have to be very clear, do we really need to raise money? Because at the end of the day, creating a sustainable business venture, I think, will attract more people to follow you and more people to get interested in you, rather than creating a story which is absolutely dependent on external funding and external money. So if you are able to create a value, keeping your customer, your user as a central piece, I think कायनात आपका साथ देगी. Nobody can stop you there. अगर आपका फोकस अपने कस्टमर के ऊपर है और उसको वैल्यू देने के पीछे आपकी पूरी अगर एनर्जी है, आपका पूरा जज्बा अगर उस आपके कस्टमर को वैल्यू देने में है, उसकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने के पीछे अगर आपके इंटेंशंस अगर आपके प्योर हैं, अगर आपकी सोच आपकी अगर सही में जेन्युइन है, और अगर मेहनत करने से आप अगर नहीं कतराते हैं, तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि आपको कोई भी रोक सकता है जहां आप पहुंचना चाहते हैं. कायनात आपका साथ देगी. All universal energies will work towards your positive intentions, and there is definitely a very spiritual fulfillment that I see in an entrepreneur journey, and that fulfillment comes automatically when you see you grow, your customers are happy, smiles on your customers' face, you reconnecting with your people back. And COVID time has definitely opened an entirely new dimensions to life. And I have been meeting a lot of entrepreneurs during this COVID time, and I realize a lot of things have changed now. The way we have started looking at life, the way we have started looking at purpose, the way we have started asking this basic question, why we are born. I think these things have become more and more prominent here. And if that becomes a central focus of an entrepreneur journey, I think investment, raising money, all that will follow you. You don't have to worry about it. There are enough people who have deep pockets and who are ready to fund money, but there are very less proposals who fulfill the criteria which are required for fundraise. So there is, on the one side, it is the same equation what we see in case of employability. There are so many people passing out, but not all are employable. Similarly, there are so many startups which are taking off the shelf, but very few have been able to create that particular aspect that, okay, I think I'm ready overall. I have a sustainable model. I am agile. I can adapt. COVID time, how you responded to your business model. One of the biggest questions that I think every entrepreneur needs to ask during COVID time: what were your reactions? What were your agility to the changing situation? And this will keep on happening. And having a total dependency on something external which is not in your hands, I think you are at risk somewhere. So getting money is always good, but are we ready for that? Do we really need it? Or there are other ways in which we can still become sustainable, we can still grow. I think at the right time, if you raise the right kind of money, it will add value for everybody, including investors, including you, including your customer, and all stakeholders will have a value to play around with. So with this, I would stop here and would want to wait for more questions. And since Shashank is here with us, I would want him to share more of his thoughts on investment specific questions that we're expecting from the audience and from the panel. So Thanks everyone. Happy to be here with you. Over to you, Krishnakant.
So, sir, let me continue. Thank you so much for setting up this wonderful context. But let me continue where you left. You spoke about right time to raise funds. How do we find this right time? When should we know that, okay, this is the right time for us to raise funds? So do you have any pointers, very quick pointers to it?
Yeah, I think the right time is where what are the expectations of an investor. So ask a simple question. अगर आपके पास पैसा होता और आपको अगर किसी के स्टार्टअप में पैसा डालना है तो आप क्या पैरामीटर्स के ऊपर इवैल्यूएट करेंगे? When we invest small money in a stock market, that too in a branded, established companies that have been there for years and years, still we do so much of research. हम उनका पिछला 3 साल का डेटा एनालिसिस करते हैं, उनकी परफॉर्मेंस देखते हैं, लोगों से बात करेंगे, अरे तूने इसके शेयर लिए थे, क्या हुआ, उसका क्या हुआ. So forget about that. Here we are talking about startups which are unknown. Nobody knows about it. It's absolutely a new game that they are trying to build. And I think if you have that internal yes, because as an investor, if I would have been there to put in money, and if you think you are ready from an investor's perspective, again, the word empathy, which is very near to my heart, I keep on talking about the word empathy, that agar empathy is one powerful word. If you all understand, I think half of the word column will simply go away. So again, from an empathy point of view of investors, if you are internally feeling, yes, you are ready to convince an investor, you have everything in place, you have the entire parameters, data, everything in place, why not? Or second way of looking at it is, if you are revenue generating, if you are growing, what is the right time for you to go to 10x or 15x? If that is the right time, then I think the point to raise money is also right.
All right. So the pointers which I can pick from your suggestions is that be empathetic towards investors and approach investors when you think that you are ready for them. Second pointer is approach an investor when you think that you are ready to multifold your business at least 10 times or 50 times, right? Thank you so much for these pointers. May I go to Shashank sir now? Shashank sir, what do you think? When should we know that? How should we know that we are ready to raise funds now? Do you have any quick pointers to it?
I think Deepak has addressed it very aptly. My only 2 cents is along the same lines that, founders. Okay, so I'll be a little more candid. What's happened is over the last 10 years, the media has highlighted isko funding mila, usko funding mila. So a lot of first-time founders are like, "Ki main start karta funding, to mujhe mil hi jayega," right? So, and Narayanan, I think what you're doing is a great initiative, and I think education at the early stage of helping founders first of all understand that raising funding is quite secondary, and what you're trying, you started the startup not to raise fund and then show on your LinkedIn ki bhai unko paisa mila, which unfortunately sometimes happens. I want this to be very candid, so I'm just letting it free flow right now. I can always go back to the professional serious look and give pointers, but I think let's make it more easygoing. So founders now have an advantage in 2021 because they have a legacy of 15 years of all the hardships of first-time entrepreneurs who've failed and succeeded. So there are stories to be learned from here rather than getting excited or bogged down by the media highlight ki isne funding uthaya to mera valuation hai. So that is the first thing I want to give out. Second, now that you've got this wealth of information of an ecosystem where folks like Narayanan and other entrepreneurs who've come out, built, and they're building successfully, you've got examples to understand why somebody is doing what they're doing. So if you're building out something, you have to ensure the viability of that product, which is, agar aapne banaya kuch aur aapne if it's reached a product market fit in your definition, and it means a lot, many things. That product market fit means different to me, it might mean different to Deepak, might mean different to Narayan. But from a perspective of the founder, how have you defined your product market fit? Is it a function of कि मैंने ये product push करा, मुझे 10 clients मिले, और मैंने push करा and I got 100 clients. When you feel you've established that thing, you're happy. Now you want to move to the next level. Now that could be 20 clients, that could be a different geography, could be a different geography outside the country. And whenever you start in your journey move to the next level in maturity or in terms of month-on-month growth, that is an excellent time to go to an investor. Because what you've done is you've inherently increased your valuation also. Which I discourage. I don't think about raising a round at a valuation, but you've inherently increased the value, the point which I made, your equity. You're not getting salary, but your value of your equity has increased because of these things. So think when you're building a company, these are the pointers you should think on. The success of what you're building out, the adaptability of what you've built out. Is it increasing? And now it's increasing, but you don't have time to service them. You know where to go, but there are only so many things a 5% team can do with 1 lakh rupees in an account, despite you're getting inward order. And that's a good problem to have. So my advice to entrepreneurs is to think of fundraising from this standpoint, that you've reached a good problem at your end, is when the other investor, Narayanan also pointed out, highlighted a very important point. Today, you've got many investors. So that will also give you time to research on your type of investor who can not provide you only capital, but help you reach the next level in terms of helping you penetrate newer accounts, expanding you to newer geographies. For instance, if you're a SaaS-based platform and you've got you envision your product to be utilized in India 30% and 70% globally, up with 30% ka 5% pahunch gaya, but you're like, this is also a right time for me to go global also. So I'll focus, I'll raise money, I'll deploy to capturing the 25% balance market in India and at least capture 20% in US. So now you start identifying SaaS-based VC funds who have a global network, who can take you to global geographies and also help you open doors in India. That's the mindset which founders need to develop when they want to raise their first round. It's just that. And I as an investor, any investor, we are fighting for deals, right? We need good founders to fund as much as founders need the capital. So we don't have an upper hand. Surprisingly, founders have the upper hand. So that is the mindset which founders need to develop, is my 2 cents. And just to conclude, Narayanan's been to YC, right? The culture at YC is quite different. Founders don't directly pitch to investors. Investors scout for good opportunities. And I've seen a lot of time during my previous fund journey where I invested in 3 startups, in YC startups. I had to pitch my fund's thesis to them. These are third-time founders. They're like, "Acha, theek hai, humko aapko paisa lena hai." I have to decide. So that's the mindset, right? I mean, you don't have to be arrogant, but you have to understand you can't underestimate your potential because you have to take money. Investors equally want to fund scalable businesses so that they can make returns, and it's a balanced equation. So think of it from that perspective.
All right. So thank you so much, sir, for extending this discussion to a different level. Extending this a bit also, can you just give us some quick pointers about what investors look for in a startup?
So we are an early stage fund, right? There are different types of investors. So founders need to identify today and this is something they need to educate themselves because there's a plethora of information online. So what are angel investors? What are angel networks? What are micro VC funds? What are growth stage VCs? If they've heard news ke andar, bhai, your story ne Sequoia ne company mein paisa dal diya, and this guy just started his fund startup yesterday and he said, "Chalo, main Sequoia ko apply karan," you will be rejected, right? Because Sequoia, you might be a great company, but you're not at the stage, right? So founders need to be understanding what type of funds they need to go after, right? And hence the thesis or the evaluation criteria at all these funds are different. For a micro VC fund like ourselves, where we want to be the first institution check, and we have been for the 50 companies we've invested in, there are largely 4 or 5 things which we look at on a broader level. And obviously there's a lot of dynamics which change, and I'll quickly touch upon those also. First is, and it's more cliched or more broader and people are aware of it. Founders pedigree, founders team, founding team, very important. Second is our ability to understand the market size opportunity. Not always easy for the founders to kind of narrate and build it out. Third is the business model strength. Not always easy, but a mix and match of both. Third is their more to unfair advantage. Is this a market which is likely to be there for the next 5 years, 10 years, and actually create a non-consumer market or create a new category? And third is obviously our ability to raise get a 20x return, they're performing. Now, that being said, we were very open in saying, hum to sirf founding teams invest karte hain. That being said, my second most valued company in my portfolio is by a college dropout, single founder. When we invested in him, he had just developed a product with 0 customers. We thought with our small capital, chalo, we make an exception because it's just an amazing product. And with our seed capital, he'll be able to, sustain for 6 months. We'll get him, 10, 15 odd clients and help him kind of, initiate the journey. And then, he should be able to raise a small round of 100K or maybe, 300K. Lo and behold, within 3 months, he ended up raising from Startup Exceed 5.5 crores, the second most valued company in our portfolio, right? So there are exceptions, and exceptions being because you built a product which has amazing stickiness, then all your thesis by the VC fund goes for a toss, because at the end of the day, it's a great opportunity, right? So my only advice to the founders would be the things which we look at. I've already looked at, mentioned. Don't look at salary component, don't be working on too many problems, have our own focus area, stuff like that. But most importantly, remember who you're pitching to. Building on Narayanan's point is like, the right kind of investor, not money, but also the network they can add to your and help you in your journey through their network effect over the next 2-3 years. Because your objective is, if you're raising VC money, guys, if you're raising institutional money, if you're raising external money, this means you have decided to become a high growth, aggressive company. This means you have decided that you will be working 16 hours a day. This means you have decided that you are going to be a leader in one market. That is not going to be easy, right? It will eventually boil down to, giving more time to your business than your family, right? So a lot of these things happen. If you're geared up, then that's the kind of mindset you need to have. I've also seen a lot of founders, ठीक है यार, अभी 20% growth हो रहा, महीने का 6 महीने बाद 30 हो जाएगा, देखी जाएगी. Those kind of things, but you still want to secure money from VCs. Why? I need money in my account, salary value बढ़ने के लिए. The mindset growth का है ही नहीं. So you're building a lifestyle business. So you need to correct yourself very early on whether you are building a lifestyle business or you're actually building a business which, VCs will come and chase you and you will be like, boss, आपका पैसा नहीं चाहिए, मुझे उसका चाहिए, थोड़े दिन बाद बात कर. That's what, again, I'm just building on Narayanan's point, and that's very, very important. So focus on that, and focus on do your research in terms of what type of investor you want to reach out to after you've reached that threshold of product market fit.
All right. So what I can get from your discussion, or like your input, sir, is that focus on the type of investors that you are pitching. There are many investors in the market who look something different, but bottom of the line, they all look for growth. They all look for right product market fit. So Deepak sir, we have a question in the chat box, and I think you might be able to answer it. And it somehow relates to the context that we are discussing right now, but it's in the case of social startups. So would you mind taking this question?
Yeah, sure. So see, social startups, if you are a for-profit startup chasing investment, then I think you have to look at in a similar to any other business startup. So there definitely can be an impact. There is a social impact which normally in this case could be more than the other startups. But in case you want to raise money from private investors, I think the bottom line is there has to be a business case for sure. Also, I think what Shashank mentioned is absolutely right, that you need to identify those kind of investors who have an inclination towards social impact. So there are a lot of impact investors that we call them, who would want to be an investor, but they are more interested in investing in social impact ventures, which are for future, which are for environment, which are for social good. Unlike many investors who look for absolutely technology-driven startups. So there has to be a business case. You have to look at a right kind of an scalable story to sell. You need to identify right kind of investors who would have an interest in social ventures, and not just investment, but investment in social ventures. So I think that's the kind of a preparation I think those founders will have to do it. But in no case you can go that I'm only creating a social impact then you are not raising investment, then you are trying to raise charity. So you have to be very clear if you want to raise grants and charity or you want to raise investment. So there are both things lends up in giving you money, but the instruments are very different. The spirit is very different. The expectation is very different. So that clarity needs to be there. And I think since the word grants came, I have been noticing a lot of startups getting a lot of grants through governments and a lot of schemes. So I'll just comment on what Shashank said, and I have been talking on this for many years now, and I've actually mentioned this to a lot of government officials also, that government grants should only be given for livelihood, so that they don't start using the investors' money for their salaries and for their livelihood. And as far as business goes, it has to be an investment, because unless there is a business case, I think entrepreneurs are likely to become complacent. They are likely to start taking things for granted, and the whole entrepreneurial drive and fire is likely to lessen up if you continue to bank on grants and charity for a longer period of time. So that's my slight caution on charity donation as well.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for answering this and taking this up. My next question is from Shashank sir only. So, sir, can you walk us through the process of deal closure when it comes to equity funding? How it looks like? How many months do you think it takes in 100x VC case also, and or in general cases also? How does this process of deal closure looks like? And we have a question for you also in the chat box, followed by this answer if you could answer that.
So, 100x was started with the objective of investing in early stage companies, much like building out a YC model for Indian companies, right? And hence closing transactions very quickly. So we introduced the ICIF, which is in Indian context a CCPS, convertible preference share, and we've invested in 50 companies, and we've all invested. So we invest in cohorts or batches or classes, as we call them. And the first set of 20 investments happened in September of 2019. 9 investments August 2020, 10 investments in November, December of 2020, and 11 investments in February of 2021. And we invested in these 20 companies in 2019, September, all of them at one go within 15 days. So our first step is to close the transaction within 15 to 20 days, wire the money first. And second, and this is through safe instruments, so there is no valuation assigned. It's for a future round. So it's a 5-page document. You don't have to do an SHA round. You don't have to get a valuation report. Nothing of those sorts. And it's a very founder-friendly document because we hold no rights. We hold no board seats. If the company doesn't do well, it's a write-off from our end. We want to do 100 investments a year is because we want to ensure the success rate of companies to kind of move to the pre-Series A. And that's the space which we're kind of addressing. We're not your typical Series A kind of fund doing 10 investments a year. No, our objective was actually and still continues to be 100 investments a year. We've only done 50 investments in 2 years now. COVID, because we were ourselves uncertain which type of companies you want to invest in, which we can add value to. And our value addition has to happen in 90 days, right? If the company is not doing well in 90 days, then it doesn't make sense. And that's the typical time frame, at least at 100x, which we invest in. A typical shareholders round can take you anywhere 60 days to 65 days to 90 days, right? Along with the legal costs associated, because those are upfront allocation of equity. It gets a little more complicated, and the due diligence process gets a little more complicated as you keep growing Series A and Series B. But at a ground level, when you're investing in companies, we encourage the founders that don't do a SHA round, because you don't have to assign a valuation right now. Plus, there's a longer process. If you want to take money from your uncle, auntie, and everybody 40-50 lakhs, you do an SHA, you stunted the growth for that time. Take the money within 15 days. Hence, what we've done is, even if companies are not being funded by 100x or being or for some reason have not made it through the evaluation criteria of 100x, they are free to utilize the ICIF instrument, which is an open source document listed on our website, right? So that's what we are. And again, to be very candid, we were really inspired by the Y Combinator model. And we felt that after 10-15 years of its existence in the US, India had now reached a point where there were a lot of VCs, but there wasn't a discovery fund like a YC model with Indian ticket sizes and in identifying Indian opportunities. And hence we decided that, can we create that discovery fund where you reduce the time of giving the money up front, right? And once you've done that, you close the cycle within 15, 20 days. That's when we start working with them as a portfolio company, getting them more metric driven, and then taking them to the next level of funding.
All right. So basically, I've simplified this process of deal closure through iSafe notes. That is what I can say. Usually, it takes around 60 to 90 days, which includes a lot of complications like shareholders' agreements, balance sheets, term sheets, and all. That is very true. So I just wanted to hear an experience from Narayan from EF Polymer. Narayan, are you there? If you're there, please open your video so that we can have your experience. Like, how has been your experience of raising this money which you just raised? How many months or how many days it has taken for you?
Sorry, can you repeat question?
Yeah, I was saying, Narayan, this process of deal closure, how has it been for you? I mean, how many days it took for you? What all complications, or I would say, complications you had while raising your seed money?
Yeah, so in our case, we started in the first discussion with VC in October 2020. And in the first discussion, once they like our idea or vision, and they said they will invest money into our startup. And similar same time in our case, 3 4 VC are interested on the same time. So the first thing we need to decide which VC we can go. So we say, to decided 2 VC which are aligned with our vision and who will support our startup. And then once we decided this, then we have a option. The first, once they said okay, we will do the money to our startup, then the first process is to sign NDA. If we need to disclose our activities, like over what kind of the internship, IP related information, and all the detail. And then we transfer in 1 month. This process take. They ask so many questions related to the team, related to business, related to the technology, and also from their side. So 1 month this take to their due diligence on the technology and the team. And once they satisfy on this thing, then after 1 month, then they started okay, the technology is good and your team and everything is fine. Then they move for the next step. Then they said we can sign some shareholder agreement or this kind of a process we started. But in our case, because before our India is also our company, and we started in Japan is our company. So we want to combine both company because we both are separate. So in this case, it's take little bit like 2 3 months to compliance, all kind of RBI compliance and this kind of thing. This is our company. So once they want to, before invest money, they want to finish everything. If we have something loan or if we pay some money, so everything is finished internally. Shareholder agreement, share transfer to each team member in, because before we have not any documentation work, just we committed to our team member, okay, we will give you share in, but not in the document. So we need to the document it. So mostly I think the once the VC decide or the investor decide, the documentation work take I think 1 or 2 months for all the compliance. And once this documentation like shareholder agreement, IP related agreement, and all this happen, then they put the money.
All right. So, moreover, what I can get your experience is again 6 to 90 days, what Shashank sir has just said, for SHAs and various sort of agreements that you need to do once investor agrees to it. Thank you so much, Narayan, for bringing your point of view here. I'll move the discussion a bit ahead, and I think we have a question in the chat box which could be answered by Shashank sir well. So Shashank sir, this person is asking, if I wanted to expand through franchise model, can I raise fund for branding only? Would someone give me money for branding or marketing?
I mean, so it really depends. Like, so if it's like an OYO model, like OYO was, what is OYO? OYO is an aggregator and then converting more like franchisee model, loosely spoken, right? So it eventually became a unicorn. It was funded. Boils down to, what kind of business you're doing and if it's of interest or matching to the thesis of the, fund. There's no yes or no answer to that. If you're looking at, a franchisee model of just setting up, for instance, the very fact that I think Baiju's bought one company, which was a very, very old company right now, had 200 centers and largely on franchisee model, right? So it's contextual. At an early stage, I'm not very sure because if you reach a certain stage where the validity of the model in franchise, and if that is the only model which is kicking in, makes sense, then yes. But at a seed stage, for creating franchises is something secondary. First, the first set of investor would want to understand what have you built out for it to be franchised, right? And hence the first check would be based on that. But that in any way does not mean that franchisee businesses don't get funded.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for answering it. Moving on further, I'll request all of the participants, if they have any questions, they can raise their hands also so that I can be able to unmute them and they can ask the questions live. So if you want to ask questions, just raise your hand. I'll align you and I'll then, uh, assign you the permission to unmute yourself and then you can ask question. Let me move ahead to our discussion. So Deepak sir, I just wanted to ask this from you. Why equity funding and why not equity funding? What do you say on this?
Okay. Slightly a difficult question. I'll possibly say it from my own experience, being an entrepreneur for many years now. So I think as an entrepreneur, there's a different set of attributes which you have. So based on those kind of an attributes, you can decide whether you want to go for funding at an initial stage or you don't want to go for funding in the initial stage. So for example, my case has been where ever since I conceptualized that I want to work on a concept like lemon. When we started, we were 10,000 feet above the ground. 98% of people in this space, predominantly by design, work on the model of government grants or some CSR funding. We decided not to be like that, and I said we have to be an entrepreneur ourselves if we are talking about entrepreneurship. So that clearly took us away very differently from the entire ecosystem where 98% people were just raising government public money. They were on grant, they were on CSR. We said we would want to be entrepreneurial, we would want to become financially sustainable. I knew that for 4 years I would be in loss, and that was absolutely fine. I had bootstrapped my own resources from my first 15 years of career. So I was fine. I was absolutely okay, and somehow I was not very much keen that I should raise money from investors at an early stage because of my own reasons. I wanted to have my freedom. I wanted to have my own way, that what I believe. And when you are changing, when you're challenging something, when you're innovating something, I think somewhere your gut feeling, your beliefs play a kind of a greater role. So to avoid such dilution, I think I decided that okay, even though it's a kind of a startup for startup, but I decided not to raise money from private investors in the initial years. Now we are sustainable. We have a small model which is profitable. A lot of incubators, a lot of entrepreneurship organizations come to us and talk to us that how you have become viable without dependence on government grant, without dependent on CSR money, without dependent on any corporate funding. And I think it all depends upon what is your intention, what is your inclination, what is your product, and what are your aspirations. So I think a mix of all this will decide if you really want to go for a private equity funding. if in case your product has no other options but you need a good pump of money to make it a viable business proposition, then I'm sure there are no choices. But if you have options of generating revenue, if you have options of making it sustainable and profitable, I think as an entrepreneur, I'll always suggest to do that first, because when you become sustainable and profitable, I think your negotiation power as an entrepreneur sitting across an investor is very high, because you have created a story, you have evidences of proof that okay, your model is working, you have customers, you have revenue. I think then the orientation and your pitch becomes very different, and what everybody else has been saying, that do something so wonderful that investors start chasing you. Till that point, keep focusing on the value and the customer. But in case your model itself needs a huge influx of capital in building something so differently that you're trying to do, and you need a huge resources, then I think you don't have the choice. You should go for an investment.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for answering this. I think what you've spoken about is it depends on the kind of business model that you are in and how are you matching with the need of growth. And, if you have an option of generating revenue, you can choose it. Particularly depends on you. So thank you so much for answering this. My next question is from Sashank, sir. So, sir, how does this valuation, work? How do you value companies in the very early stages of their work? And how this dilution should work, how much percentage, like I would say, if you have something to indicate that how much somebody should dilute for the first seed like investment that they raise.
So honestly, I wouldn't know how to value a company because we don't value companies. We give them money without valuing them, and they get valued whenever they raise the next round. So we've kind of outsourced that or pushed it to the pre-series A fund guys to do all the hard work of valuing companies. So we don't value, and we encourage founders not to value themselves at the early stage, right? As I mentioned, it's a function of how well you've performed, what market you've captured, which will inherently set a value, right? So you essentially have instruments like CCPS, convertibles, to kind of help you raise the first rounds, and which helps you kind of build out what you've envisioned. So valuation is something Sanjay, everybody else naturally discourage at the first fundraising. The other thing is that you should be very, 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 very cognizant of the fact that how expensive and critical your equity is, and diluting equity is the most expensive thing you can do, and hence giving it out to mentors, advisors has to be of, I mean, you really need to think of it as founders responsibility. We've seen great businesses, and unfortunately you'll be surprised if we've evaluated 14,000 decks, at least 40% of them were great businesses which got rejected, not because they raised money and they were late for us, because they diluted so much equity upfront without even reaching a milestone and having that inherent valuation in their mind, not even having a deep tech IP product. It was ridiculous, right? And that to the extent that in 2021 it's blasphemous if founders are doing that, because they have no excuse or reason not to be aware of it, because everything is online, everything is accessible. If you really want to understand, you can self-educate yourself today on any topic. I mean, I can be sitting on the other side and any founder can be sitting on our side and start doing investing, because everything has become democratized in terms of gaining access to knowledge, right? And it is surprising how much capital is diluted in the name of free mentorship, or even to the extent, for instance, you give it to advisors and the advisor will be allocating time, but you just can't give it away just like that. So you need to have an understanding, what is the function of the advisor? Is he or she going to open doors for you in terms of a certain amount of business which will be generated over the next 3 months or 6 months? And rather than giving them 2% or 3%, can you vest it for 0.5% for first 6 months based on their performance? It's absolutely natural to have these kind of agreements. I mean, I was advising an esports company right after my first fund stint, and before I was setting up 100x, and I'm quite excited about the esports stint. And I had an agreement with the then founders of the esports company that, an advisory equity of 1.5%, purely based on, how the model emerges and vested over the next four months. And that's how it works out. So you need to ensure advisory equity doesn't mean that he hafte mein ek call ho gaya, advice ho gaya. That doesn't mean giving equity, right? It means a lot more, right? It means that the person is actually helping you grow the business. So from a advisory mentor capacity, I would say diluting anywhere between 0.25% to 1.5% should be the range. And any good advisor would not ask you for 5 or 6% because they know how much effort that. I mean, you can hold 10%. Uski value kuch bhi nahi hogi if they don't reach to the next level. The value of a 10% equity can be zero, and the value of 1.5% or 0.25% can be $1 million.
Yes.
So founders need to be, careful around how much they dilute and in what capacity they dilute. Typically, by the time they reach a Series A funding, and Narayanan, you can add also over here, based on your YC experience also. Typically, founders tend to and need to hold, 60%, 65%, 70% equity. By Series A, they should not have typically diluted, 30 to 35%. But again, I'd love to get Narayanan's perspective also on that, because he's been the YC program.
One really good point, Shashank, and this is for everyone on the call. See, mentorship should always come free. I think I can get on a mail with Shashank and understand how to raise funds, right? Like vesting or equity dilution. I was not born learning this. I'm personally a college dropout, so everything I learned was from the internet. And my first pitch on a stage was at Entrepreneurs, right? And we probably spent like $800 to travel from Hyderabad to Nagpur to participate, right? The first term sheet that we got for an investment, this nice gentleman who invested in multiple Hyderabad companies came up to us and said 3%. And that was the red flag. It was a $500,000 check that we were getting for a very nice dilution, keeping 85% with us. We said no because of how futuristic this mentor wasn't for us. And we Chennai Angels, Mumbai Angels, or any, investment analyst at a Sequoia or a Lightspeed would love to get on a half an hour call with you to at least get an update from you, right? So seek for those people rather than just sort of capturing that money. And I think one more point that Shashank mentioned, frugality. I think Indian entrepreneurs or early stage startups are forgetting frugality nowadays. They are building more than growing the business. I would suggest that, go out there and sort of speak to your customers more often than anything else. But yeah, I think a very, very fruitful point from your side, Shashank. Dilution should be like always kept in mind. Money can always come back to you, right? But generation of wealth through these smaller percentages is very, very hard.
All right. Thank you, Narayanan, for sharing your insights also. So typically you have a range before pre-series A, you should not dilute more than 30-35%. This is what is range. Rest you can see based on your business model, the kind of vision you hold. We have three questions in the chat box, and I'll take it in rapid fire very quickly. So I think we have a question, Shashank sir, here, which you can answer it very quickly. This person is asking that what kind of return an investor looks for. I mean, what's the higher side and what's the lower side when somebody invests? That what kind of return they look for?
Okay, so founders need to be aware that if they're picking up money from investors, what type of investor? If it is a venture capital fund, then venture capital funds are the most aggressive investors in vivid businesses, but also they're investors in businesses which need to be having a hockey stick growth or outliers. Why? Because VCs themselves have raised 100 rupees from other pension funds and stuff like that. They have to return the capital in 7-8 years. That can come from outliers in their portfolio. So, when they are investing in companies, they are looking for extremely high growth companies, and they're expecting that the one investment can be returning 5x to 20x to 50x to 100x of their fund. That's the number crunching which is going after. So and that is largely on the investor side, how they're evaluating the opportunity. What the founders need to keep in mind is that they really need to be clear that they are in this for the long haul. If they're going to a VC, are they here to stay put? And literally have this mind. See, if you don't fund me, it's okay. I appreciate that. You'll have your own thing. I am here to stay, and I will continue to build my business. And I will definitely become a category leader. If you have the opportunity to join us right now, where we are still early on, because maybe we'll become a little more expensive going forward. Without being arrogant, but having that confidence in yourself that you are here for the long run. Is the mindset one needs to continuously work towards, one needs to continuously develop.
All right. So another question that we have is, if a company is not profitable, if a business is not profitable, but it has a potential to be, can still they raise fund? I mean, we have a lot of case studies like this also.
Yeah.
Currently in the
see, the thing is, a
ecosystem.
lot of IP deep tech driven businesses are not profitable in the first 5 years. So a lot of VCs fund, and we've invested in 10 deep tech companies, right? And venture capital business is a function of not revenue. There are many businesses which are not evaluated on profitability or revenue generation. There are many businesses which are now emerging in terms of social commerce or community platforms, right? Particularly, how would you monetize, how would you value an AirMeet platform today? AirMeet doesn't charge me anything, right? It's still funded. It received a great second round of funding. Is it a bad business? Certainly not, right? Because AirMeet is solving a problem during COVID. Similarly, a bio enzymers startup which is invested in a deep tech development tool to kind of build out certain polymers or whatever, right, is creating a long-term value and might not be profitable in the near future. There are many business models. I think what happens is, we've got bad examples, or not bad examples, but Swiggy's or Zomato's of the world being extremely funded, maybe in some capacity not being profitable. Hence, those examples come into existence, and that is the function of the whole startup ecosystem. Right? If either your business is, and so what I was trying to say was, VCs know which businesses to look at from that perspective. They will fund businesses if the metric to be valued over there is revenue. Or they will fund businesses where the business's metric is to be a community platform with daily active users, right? I'm more concerned ki bhai kitna stickiness hai, and your month-to-month growth on your daily active user for the next 3 months, right? It's business to business. There is no, but that being said, and I keep using this statement time and again, and I like to repeat this, whatever you do, you need to figure the pricing issues. You need to figure out your business model, because when you raise money from venture capital, you need to have a path to profitability whenever it kicks in. Whenever it kicks in, even a social commerce platform eventually will need to have a profitability. You need to have the guts. You need to have the courage to say, and I'm assuming maybe Mark Zuckerberg did that, कि भाई मैं 10 साल तक पैसा नहीं बनाने वाला हूँ, लेकिन eventually मैं बहुत बड़ा होऊंगा, whatever, right? But that goes on to show your conviction on your business plan or your conviction on the opportunity, which could be a function of maturity in 5 years, 3 years, 10 years. And India is just an amazing geography to be in right now, because it is just growing from all ends. So that's my answer to that. I don't know who's asked that question, what their business is, but profitability really depends on आपका business क्या है, and eventually आपको होना पड़ेगा. You have no excuse, but you have to become a profitable business, and you need to have the confidence and educate the investor, because you're the business guy. Educate the investor in terms of what profitability means in your business.
All right. I think it gets answered really, really well. We have one question, and this will be our last question. I'll be taking this live, and then we'll move on to the closing remarks. So Vishal, I've requested you to unmute. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Yes,
Can
Vishal,
you
you're
hear me?
audible.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. So my question is to Mr. Shashank, sir. Hello. Is it audible?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I want to know what exactly is a risk tolerance for a VC. For example, VCs look for returns, ROI, scalability, and when they look for a investment in a startup. But then, how is the risk tolerance calculated? Like, if I'm a startup, like different VCs will have different process of evaluating a particular startup. So as a startup, how
So
do I analyze like
our risk tolerance is pretty high. That's why we are in the business of venture capital. We go with the assumption that we are hopefully successful in identifying high growth companies. But as I mentioned earlier, at 100x.vc, we want to invest in 100 companies a year. We've done 50. Hopefully, we'll do another 50 by June next year. And out of these 100, many companies are not going to succeed. And we are okay with that. We gave them a chance to succeed, and hence we are not holding any rights or board seats. So in our mind, we are taking a huge risk, and we're willing to write off that capital because we are also in that process have funded 25 to 30 companies which are going to be really creating disruption in the Indian market and creating value. So the risk parameter on a VC is the highest. Try going to a bank to get a loan. That is going to be a little more difficult at times. While VC's core business is to fund unformed businesses or businesses which have not captured a significant market yet. And again, the question in terms of how different VCs evaluate again comes back to the stage of VC. So if you're going to a growth stage VC, he's going to be tracking you, bhai, your threshold has to be $1 million in revenue, and uske upar have you been growing month on month at a certain X percentage. At a micro VC, we'll be like, okay, is the MVP in place? Is there a POC paid or non-paid in process? Is there a pipeline of 10, 15 clients, whatever business they are in? And as a metric, could be 10 or could be 100. But can this convert? What is the sales cycle? Is it 50 days, 60 days, 1 week? A lot of parameters, right? Either way, those metrics will eventually is our way of determining, is it a good time to invest? Can this capital be infused for this founder to kind of grow 100% over the next 3-4 months, and as a function of that, raise their next round, and hence the valuation, and hence continuous growth, so on and so forth.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for giving these wonderful insights. And I'm very much thankful to you to join this discussion today with us. We have exceeded the time with 8 minutes, and I'll now take closing remarks from you now. So maybe your closing remarks, Shashank, sir, then maybe we'll move on to closing this discussion.
Yeah, my only closing remark to the founders would be, it's a great time to be building businesses. You've got great initiatives like Lemon Ideas by Deepak and Krishna Kant working towards enabling this process. This has become, sorry if you hear my son in the background, he's become a permanent member of my sessions, either in laughter or crying sessions.
We all are used to it now, sir.
And I think it's a great time to be building businesses, but what investors, and I know Deepak and Krishnakant, you can also add, what we are not seeing happening, and I'll be very direct, this is not to you guys, this is just general observation in the ecosystem. Despite so many investors, despite so many YouTube channels giving you information on product development, market utilization, despite zillions of clubhouses, chat rooms, LinkedIn access to investors, and Y Combinator sessions, ample amount of type of investors wanting to give their money, founders are still not moving past the first stage. Kya karna hai hum logon ko? That phase is gone. It was 5 years ago. You can't be asking me, how am I supposed to start up? Because today you've got access to 300 plus incubation centers. I still hear a lot of basic questions coming in. I'm surprised Founders are not leveraging Startup India, not educating themselves enough about the policies, not educating themselves about which incubation center can help them proactively. Why are you waiting for an investor to reach out to you? You should know which investor is good for me. That is the mindset which is missing. And I would encourage everybody to start thinking of yourselves as, somebody very, very important who is going to be, adding a significant value over the next decade for India, which is anyways in a transformational state, right? And a lot of people would be looking up to you guys in 10 years time if you build up successful businesses. The time is short. You guys have to be more confident in chasing opportunities and building out and leveraging this digital age more than possibly what I had. And I did my engineering from Nagpur. In 99, I used to pay 100 rupees to enter in cafe, 5 rupees outgoing call, 2.5 rupees. You guys have just at an amazing time, right? So it's a great time. So be confident about this time, 2021, despite COVID, it's a great time to be starting businesses as opposed to 2009 or 2010. Very, very different ecosystem, very, very different culture. So whenever you are in doubt, think of entrepreneurs, what they were doing in 2005 or 1995. And that should kind of help you understand what you guys have right now in 2021. So that's my final remarks. Thanks.
Thank you for this closing remarks, sir. And I'll now take Deepak sir for his closing remarks. Sir, over to you now.
Yes, thanks, Krish. Thanks, Shashank, for that wonderful insight. And happy to know that you have a connection with Nagpur. We'll surely catch up sometime more on it. So I think one thing that I agree with Shashank, and that's also one of the frustration we all have in the ecosystem, that despite so much things available, this basic element of fire inside an entrepreneur, which drives an entrepreneur over a longer period of time, I think is something which is not being there to an extent which we all would expect. So I think the only thing which I always say wherever I have been interacting with this set of entrepreneurs also last week. So I'll again reiterate that don't jump to the solutions. Don't get attracted to solutions. Don't get attracted to money or funding. In case you are really passionate about solving some problem, get married to a problem, because this problem will keep you motivated over a longer period of time, in terms of making sure, in spite of challenges, in spite of all odds, in spite of ups and downs, I think the zeal to solve a problem in the benefit of your user, that zeal will make you go on and go on, because solutions might change here and there. The way will go to east or west, sometime north south. But if you stick to a problem, and if you decide that you want to devote your next 5, 10, 15 years of your life in solving this problem or bridging this gap or addressing this need, making it a sustainable business model, making it an impactful venture for people, making it a profitable venture for everyone, I think all that will follow. But get absolutely positioned into what you want to solve and why you want to solve this. Don't just jump into a startup के बॉस अखबारों में बहुत अच्छा लगता है, फाउंडर्स की स्टोरीज पढ़ के बहुत अच्छा लगता है. जो फाउंडर्स की स्टोरीज पढ़ते हैं वो केवल 0.5, 0.2, 0.1% की स्टोरीज है. There are 99% more people जिनकी स्टोरीज आप तक नहीं पहुंची है. So don't get ultimately into that hype, और वो बहुत ग्लैमरस है और अच्छा लगता है और पैसा मिल जाता है और VCs हैं बहुत सारे. I think the reason to become an entrepreneur has to be more around the problem what you're trying to solve or the need which you're trying to fulfill. If that is the case, I think the rest all will follow. Thank you so much. It was wonderful having you all here, and wish you all the best. Aap sabki jai ho. This is what I pray to the Almighty God. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deepak sir, for this wonderful closing remarks. May I now request Narayan from EF Polymer if you have something to say in closing remarks?
Yeah, so thank you so much. जैसा कि मतलब दीपक सर ने और शशांक सर ने बताया, तो काफ़ी लर्निंग हुई है. तो मोस्टली मैं यही कहना चाहूँगा कि अगर आपके अंदर मतलब कोई इंटेंशन है, पॉजिटिव इंटेंशन किसी प्रॉब्लम को सोल्व करने का, तो बस उस चीज को पाने के लिए खुद को लगा दीजिए। मतलब अगर आपका मोटिवेशन सही है, आप अगर किसी सही चीज को पाने के लिए लगा रहे हैं अपनी मेहनत और अपना हार्ड वर्क, तो बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग हैं जो आपको सपोर्ट करेंगे। बहुत ज्यादा सोचने की जरूरत नहीं है, जो आपके माइंड में है उसको एग्जीक्यूशन करते जाए छोटे छोटे स्टेप लेके, और वो एक ना एक दिन अवश्य मतलब लोगों के सामने आएगा और वो चीज सही में बदलेगी अगर आपने स्टार्ट की है तो छोटे छोटी चीजों से, छोटे छोटे गोल से उन चीजों को लेते हुए अपने आप को और आसपास की जो चीजें मतलब रिसोर्सेज नहीं है तो कंप्लेन करने से कोई सॉल्यूशन नहीं है। उन्हीं रिसोर्सेज को कैसे सॉल्यूशन बनाया जाए उस वे में सोच के अगर आप स्टार्ट करेंगे तो आई थिंक फंडिंग सारी चीजें आपको मिल जाएगी और आप एक अच्छा बिजनेस, एक अच्छी सोसाइटी को डेवलप कर पाएंगे। और अभी मैं यही कहूँगा कि हमें सभी को एक सस्टेनेबल बिजनेस की तरफ आगे बढ़ना चाहिए, क्योंकि जो सस्टेनेबल गोल्स हैं या जो एसडीजी गोल्स है, ग्रीन आइडियाज, ग्रीन बिजनेस, उसको लेकर आगे बढ़ना चाहिए ताकि अपन बिजनेस, एनवायरनमेंट और इन दोनों चीज़ों को मेंटेन कर पाए। तो ऐसे आइडियाज, ऐसे ही थिंकिंग के साथ अगर अपन कुछ करेंगे तो वो सोसाइटी के लिए एज वेल एनवायरनमेंट के लिए भी काफ़ी हेल्पफुल रहेगा।
Thank you so much, Narayan, for your kind words. I also had few of the learnings from the session today. We learned a lot. I mean, ranging from what investors look into money, to valuations, to dilutions, to real experience sharing by the entrepreneurs. You must have learned a lot from today's session. Sashank sir pointed it out, like right, that everything is available. We have zillions of clubhouse rooms running every day, and it's on the Android now also. I mean, come on, 3 days back it's got launched for Android. You can, like, everything is available. You just need to be curious enough for it. And yes, there are many people in the ecosystem.
So I like the word which you use, curious. That's the exact right word. Thanks for that.
Yes. So the thing is, there are a lot of people in the ecosystem who will ask, I would say, like fake valuation, or I would say fake equity from you. They'll ask you for 10% or 5% for their mentorship and all. That also clarified today that what all things you should be considering by diluting your equity, because this is the ultimately one thing that you hold, right, in your startup. So thank you so much, Shashank sir, for joining this today. We all really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you
And I
for
would
inviting me. Thank you, and thank you for all the other panelists also. I think I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to speaking with some of the founders who are building out businesses here, who are looking to raise their first check. Feel free to drop us a line at pitch@100x.vc. We usually respond within 24 hours to 48 hours, either in a yes or no. And yeah, I'm looking forward to future discussion. And obviously, I did not know, Deepak, that you're from Nagpur, but I will definitely visit you sometime. I used to stay near Sadar. I don't know where you stay in Nagpur, but I have a couple of friends there. Nagpur is close to heart, so I will definitely reach out to you whenever this COVID ends.
We'll surely catch up Shashank over a call soon.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Shashank sir. Thank you so much, Deepak sir. Thank you so much, Narayan, for joining us. And